In today's day and age, more and more companies are moving to serverless computing and cloud services. So honestly, if you're not developing these skills, you should be terrified. Hi, my name is Jesse Torres and I'm a systems administrator, and in this channel, I share with you my journey on creating my freelance business, as well as step-by-step tutorial videos so that you can start developing these technical skills too. In this video, I'll walk you through how to create your very first web application. We'll be using cloud services like API Gateway, Lambda Functions, as well as some good old HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So let's get started. All right, guys, so what we're going to be building today is a web application that takes a URL and allows you to get SEO content. So it will give you a response time for your website, as well as the number of links, the number of media files, title and meta description, as well as a list of all the header tags. We'll also get a list of all the images that don't have an alt attribute, as well as a copy of the robots.txt file if there is one, and a preview of what your website would look like on Google search engine. What we're going to do here is create two services. We're going to create an API gateway and a Lambda function. We're going to use the API gateway to trigger our Lambda function. So first off, what you want to do is log into your AWS account and move over to North Virginia, that is US East 1. And you can, if you're not on North Virginia, you can just simply click on the drop down and select the right region. This is going to be crucial because we're going to want to make sure that our Lambda function and our API gateway are on the same region. All right, so what we're going to do here is just type API gateway. Give it a second to load. Then we can just click on API gateway. And the API type that we're going to create today is going to be an HTTP API. So we're going to click on create. The API name that we are going to use is going to be my web scraping API. So we're just going to type that in here. We're going to do next. And we're just going to click on next for now. We will need to configure our routes, but we're going to do that towards the end. Stage name, I'm going to just select default and keep auto deploy. And then we're just going to hit on create. All right, perfect. So it looks like our API gateway is all created. Now, what we're going to do is create a couple routes. Or actually, you know what? We're just going to create one route. So we're going to click on create. This is going to be a get route. And we're going to call it SEO check. Now we're going to need to configure our cross-origin resource sharing settings. And we're going to navigate to course, then configure. Now in this case, what we're going to do is simply add an asterisk and then add and save. Now, I'm not going to dive into detail on how to configure the cross-origin resource sharing settings. Maybe in the future, I'll create a video on it. But for now, we're just going to do that just to enable. Now, the next thing that we need to do is configure our Lambda function. So again, make sure that you are on North Virginia, and we are going to search for Lambda and just select Lambda. So we're going to create a function. So we're going to use the function name of my bot function. It's going to be we're going to be running Python 3.9. We can leave the architecture as x86 and then create function. All right, perfect. So next thing, what we're going to do is add a trigger. So we're going to select add a trigger, and we're going to reference the API gateway that we created previously. So it'll be my web scraping API. Now, if you don't see your HTTP API in this list, then you're going to want to go back and make sure that the API gateway is created on the same region as your Lambda function. going to select that. Deployment stage, we're going to select default. And then security for now, we're just going to do open. And add. Perfect. Now, next, what we're going to do is set up our Lambda layer and policies. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is click on layer and add a layer. And we're going to choose AWS Data Wrangler Python 39 and version 5. All right, click on add, make sure that it finishes configuring. All right, so the next thing, you're going to see that, some populated code. We're not going to need any of that, so we're just going to go ahead and delete it. Next thing is just uploading the Python code. So one of the things to keep in mind with Lambda functions is that you cannot just simply copy and paste your code. So in order for you to insert the code on the documentation down below, you'll need to go into the upload form and upload either a zip file or Amazon S3. Now, if you are on a Windows, you can do that pretty easily by using a notepad and then saving that as a Python script. But I'm on a Mac, so the workaround that I was able to do is open your Sublime editor or editor of preference. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this so that you can see. All right, and then I'm just going to copy and paste the code off of the documentation, and I'm going to do save as, and then I'm actually going to save it as lambda underscore function and save. I'm going to do replace, and then I can just go ahead and close that. And you have your Python Lambda function code. So I'm just going to go ahead and compress to create the zip file. Now that I have the zip file ready, I'll go ahead and upload it into our Lambda function. Make sure you get the zipped file, not the Python file. And save. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and click OK. And then we don't need this folder here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and delete it. And then we should be able to deploy. All right, now that we have deployed our Lambda function, we're gonna go ahead and configure some of the permissions. So we're gonna go ahead and copy the function ARN, navigate over to configuration and permissions, scroll all the way to the bottom, and add permissions. So we're going to add an AWS service. Basically, we're going to allow communication across our Lambda function and our API gateway. So we're going to go ahead and paste the function ARN into the source ARN. And then I'm going to give it a statement ID of my invoke policy. And then we want to make sure to select the invoke function because we want to have API gateway serve as a trigger for our Lambda function. So we're going to go ahead and click on save, and all right, looks like that part is done. Now I'm going to go back into our API gateway because we actually need to configure the endpoints. So we want to actually change that so that it is /SEO check. So what we're going to do is jump over to our API gateway. We're going to go over to routes. We are going to actually, see if we can get rid of this one. And then we're going to go into SEO check, attach integration, and we should see our Lambda function, MyBot function. Attach integration, and then it should have auto-deployed it. So we're going to go back to our Lambda function and refresh. So now as you can see, we have the API endpoint for -SEO check. That's the right route. And then this one, we went ahead and deleted that route. So we're actually going to also delete it from our Lambda function. And we are good. All right, so it looks like those are all the cloud services that we needed to configure and deploy. Now, the next thing is to create your HTML code and host it on your hosting provider. So I am going to be hosting with HostGator, logging in here. And again, if your hosting provider is, something other than HostGator, like, GoDaddy or any other hosting service, it should work just fine. Just make sure to create the HTML and JavaScript files. All right, so this is basically our HTML code, and I actually have went ahead and added both the JavaScript code right below the HTML code. Ideally you'd want to have them on separate files, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I went ahead and just kept them on the same one. So as you can see, the first piece of code right below the body is a simple form, which is going to get a URL input from the client, and then that will trigger a function, log submit. So if we go ahead and search that on here, it is on our JavaScript code, which is this section. And what that's going to do, it's going to create an API call with that URL. The URL is right here, SEO check. And then this is just a value that is coming from the parameters. Now, once that does that, it's going to go ahead and fetch the data, and you're going to get a JSON file. With that JSON file, we're then going to create variables using JavaScript, and using those variables, we're then going to dynamically insert as HTML using document.getElementById. As you can see, it's a simple form. It's asking me to enter a URL. So I'm actually going to go ahead and enter mine. And then analyze website. It'll take a couple seconds. And then it'll give you the response time, media files, number of links, metadata, and a couple of other pieces of information. So if we inspect, I want to show you a couple of things. If we go into network, you can see all of the requests that were made. You might need to refresh it. I'm going to go ahead and enter my website. Then you see that request, SEO check. You click on that, and then you click on preview. You'll be able to see the JSON data that I was talking to you about. We have header tags, a list of all the header tags, a list of images, source data, URL, description, response time. All of this information is being dynamically inserted into div elements and other HTML tags. So that's basically how it works. Now, if you guys have any questions or want me to break down the HTML code or the Python or JavaScript code, feel free to let me know in the comments below. All right, so hopefully by now you guys were able to create your API gateway, Lambda function, and were able to host your HTML and JavaScript code. All right, I'll see you guys on the next one.